For a very long time, there has been a mystery that most of us hardly notice. While people are busy studying space and searching for life on other planets, there is another kind of being that has long existed right here on our Earth that we have not paid attention to. In the depths of the ocean, thousands of whales exchange sounds every Albie day. For many decades, most scientists believed that these sounds were simply a way for whales to navigate, find food, or communicate with their group.
These two whales are taking turns to communicate in rapid bursts of clicks. Researchers at Project CETI are using artificial intelligence to decode the clicks.
Where researchers at Project CETI are using artificial intelligence to decode.
But as artificial intelligence and modern data analysis advance, new discoveries are beginning to raise even bigger questions. Could whales have a more complex communication system that we don't know about? And that's what we're going to find out. But before we begin, don't forget to like this video. It means a lot to us content creators. Thank you very much, and now let's get started. In recent years, marine biologists, computer scientists, and AI researchers have started joining forces to study the vast collection of whale recordings gathered from different parts of the world. Their goal is not only to identify what kinds of sounds whales make, but also to find out if there are hidden patterns behind them. One of the reasons why experts became interested is because of the unique characteristics of whales. Their brains are among the largest of any animal on the planet. There are even some species that display advanced social behavior, cooperation, and even traditions that are passed down to the next generation. In other words, they are not just simple animals that merely swim in the ocean. They have their own society, their own culture, and possibly their own way of sharing information. Because of this, researchers started to use AI systems that are commonly used in the study of human language. This is also the same technology used to recognize words, sentences, and patterns in human language. It's surprising because they also tried to apply this to the sounds coming from whales. And this is where everything started to become more interesting. Instead of random sounds, there were times when researchers discovered repeated sequences. There are also particular combinations of sounds that come out in succession in different situations. It's like pieces of a puzzle that gradually form a bigger picture. Although there is still no scientific evidence proving that whales have a language similar to what humans use, many experts believe that their communication is more complex than just simple calls or signals. One of the most exciting events happened on the coast of Alaska in 2023.
Here's a bit of how their conversation went.
A group of researchers conducted an experiment using an underwater speaker. The plan was simple. Play a recording of a humpback whale contact call. It's a type of sound that humpback whales use to let other whales know of their presence. It's like saying, "I'm here." The scientists weren't sure if anyone would respond. But a few moments after the recording played underwater, a humpback whale approached their boat. The name of this whale is Twain. While circling around the research vessel, it also began to make its own vocalizations. The scientists played the recording again, and Twain responded once more. And when they repeated the process, the same thing happened. This went on repeatedly for almost 20 minutes. For the researchers, it wasn't just Twain's response that was surprising. Even more remarkable was the way he responded. Each time it seemed like he waited first, for just the right interval before making a new sound. It was as if he was following a conversational rhythm. It didn't seem like random overlapping noise. There was a pattern. There was timing. According to the researchers involved in the project, this is one of the clearest examples of a two-way vocal interaction between a human and a humpback whale ever recorded in modern times. But while the researchers are trying to understand the meaning of these sounds, there is another group of experts who are focused on a different kind of whale, the sperm whale. And this is where some of the most fascinating questions about the communication of these creatures begin to emerge. But as research on whales deepens, there is one thing that needs to be clarified. Science has not yet proven that we can translate what sperm whales are saying as if it were human language. There is still no decoded sentence equivalent to, "This is what I want to say." But what researchers have discovered is almost just as important. Because what they once thought were just simple clicks actually have clearer patterns, structure, and variation. According to a study published in Nature Communications, Project CETI studied more than 8,700 whale codas from sperm whales around Dominica. Codas are short sequences of clicks that sperm whales use when communicating with each other. Before, many scientists thought that the combinations of these sounds were limited, like just a few simple signals. But when more advanced computer analysis and AI tools were used, it turned out that the system was actually more complicated. There are changes in the speed of the clicks, changes in the rhythm, and sometimes an extra or missing click at the end. And there are timing patterns that aren't just random. This means it's not just simple noise under the sea. It's like a sound system with its own rules. It's not the same as human language yet, but it's clear that there's organization, there's structure, and it's possible that there's a deeper meaning that we still don't understand. This is where Project CETI becomes more interesting. Their goal is not to create a fantasy translator like in the movies, where suddenly the whale would speak in English. Their goal is more serious. They want to gradually understand when sperm whales use each pattern. Who are they talking to? What are they doing while they're speaking? And what situations are connected to that sound? That's why it's not enough to just record the audio. You also need to know the whole scene. Where is the whale? How deep is it? Who is it with? Is it looking for food? Is the group resting? Is there a calf nearby? Is there another whale family close by? In human language, meaning changes depending on context. The same thing could be happening with whales. Just think about a simple conversation between people. When you say let's go, it means something different if you're at home, something else if you're on the street, and something else again if you're in the middle of an emergency. It's the same word, but the meaning changes depending on the situation. That's what scientists are trying to find in whale communication. They're seeking more than sounds. They want the link between sound and behavior. In Dominica, this is a big help because there are sperm whale families there that researchers have been monitoring for a long time. They're not just random whales that suddenly pass by and disappear. There are well-known groups, family lines, and whales that keep coming back to the same place for many years. It's like a neighborhood under the sea, and that's where they started collecting more detailed data. The team used hydrophones or underwater microphones to listen to the sounds in the sea. There are also special tags that are temporarily attached to the whale's body using suction cups. These are not permanently attached and are designed to come off afterwards. Through these tags, they don't just get audio. They can also see how deep the whale dives, how it moves, and what the position of its body is while making sounds. Here, it becomes clearer why it's difficult to study sperm whales. They're not like birds that you can observe in a tree. Sperm whales go down to the dark parts of the sea. Sometimes they dive so deep that people can't easily follow them. That's why with every recording, it's like we're only opening a small window into their world. And in that world, sound is important. In the darkness of the ocean, sound serves as the way to search, communicate, and stay connected with the group. There's another important detail. According to studies on sperm whales, there are what we call vocal clans. This means there are groups of sperm whales that have their own style of codas. It's like a dialect or accent in humans. In the Philippines, for example, the tone and words of Tagalog, Bisaya, Ilocano, and others are different. For sperm whales, it's not words like ours, but there are distinct sound patterns connected to their social group. And there's also evidence that they learn this. A young sperm whale isn't born with perfect sounds right away. Just like human babies who start with baby sounds before learning to speak clearly, there are also observations that young whales make less polished versions of codas as they learn from their group. This is where the story gets deeper, because if these sounds are learned, it means there is culture, there is passing on, there is identity, there is belonging. This isn't just instinctive behavior that happens automatically. Part of it is learned within the family and community. That's why, as Project CETI gathers more data, scientists are also becoming more careful with their assumptions. They're not saying that sperm whale communication is the same as human language. They're also not saying that we can already talk to whales like we talk to people. What they're saying is this: whale communication is more complex than we have long believed, and we might just be at the beginning of understanding a communication system that developed in the ocean millions of years before we even made our own microphones, computers, and AI. The question now is no longer whether whales make sounds. We've known that for a long time. The bigger question is this: how much meaning is hidden in the sounds we've been hearing for so long? But is it only now that we're really trying to listen? As more recordings come in from Dominica, a more surprising picture is gradually emerging. It's not just important what sound the sperm whale makes, it's also important how it makes that sound. According to studies by Project CETI and other research teams, there are patterns in the communication of sperm whales that are more complex than scientists have long believed. What we hear underwater isn't just a simple series of clicks. There are changes in speed, spacing, and structure of the sounds that can carry different information. It's similar to how it is with humans. When the word is the same but the tone is different, the meaning can change. A simple okay can mean happy, angry, worried, or joking, depending on how it's said. There may also be a similar concept in the communication of sperm whales. In new analyses using artificial intelligence, researchers found that some codas are not just fixed signals. There are small changes within the pattern that seem to add another layer of information. Science does not yet know their exact meaning, but there is enough evidence to show that the communication system of whales is richer than the previous model used in textbooks. Another observation is even more intriguing. There are times when the way they communicate seems to change depending on the situation and the whales they are with. This doesn't mean that they have human-style conversations, but it shows that social context is important in their interactions. And if this is true, it's closer to complex social systems than to the simple animal signaling we've long assumed. Because of this, some scientists began to ask bigger questions. How far does the ability of sperm whales to process information really go? How extensive is their social network? And how quickly can important information be passed from one group to another? There is a part of history that researchers often revisit when discussing this question. During the era of commercial whaling in the 19th century, many ships systematically hunted sperm whales in different oceans around the world. At first, the hunters were highly successful, but according to some historical studies, the situation gradually changed over time. It became harder to approach sperm whales. They avoided hunters more quickly. They escaped more often. There are historians and marine researchers who believe that social learning within whale populations may have something to do with this. This means that the surviving groups may have passed on information about the danger to other members of their community. This doesn't mean there's evidence that they sent a particular warning message across the entire ocean. There is still no scientific proof for such a claim. However, there is strong evidence that sperm whales learn from experience and that some behavioral knowledge is passed on within their groups. And for many scientists, that's impressive enough because the ability to learn, adapt, and share information is one of the foundations of advanced social behavior. Meanwhile, another discovery further heightened scientific interest. Instead of just studying the intervals between clicks, some researchers began to examine the actual shape of the sounds. This is where caution is needed. Some studies have found acoustic features in whale vocalizations that may resemble certain elements of human speech. But according to the researchers themselves, this does not necessarily mean that whales use vowels like humans do. It also doesn't mean that they have their own version of English, Tagalog, or any human language. A more accurate description is this: there are acoustic patterns in their sounds that may provide new clues about how they organize information. It's like finding a new puzzle piece in a huge picture that's still incomplete. And as Project CETI collects more data, one thing becomes clearer. For many decades, scientists have asked whether the sounds of sperm whales have meaning. Now that question is slowly being replaced. The new question is, how complex is the meaning hidden behind each click? With every new recording, it seems the ocean reminds us that there is still so much we don't know about the creatures that have long lived alongside us. And perhaps one of the greatest mysteries of communication on Earth isn't found on land, but in the dark and very deep parts of the ocean, where whales continue to communicate, even though no one fully understands everything they are saying. At this point in the story, there's a misconception that needs to be clarified. When we hear the word language, we immediately think of the words, sentences, and grammar that humans use. But according to many marine biologists and language researchers, the words and sentences used don't have to be exactly like human language. This is the reason why the scientific community became interested in the new discoveries about sperm whales. It's not because they've proven that whales speak like humans, but because their sounds seem to have a deeper organization than what has long been believed. For many years, the primary use of sperm whale vocalizations has been associated with echolocation. This is their ability to use sound waves to see in the dark parts of the ocean. It's like a natural sonar. They send out sounds, the echo returns, and from there, they form a picture of their surroundings, even if they can't see any light. But as researchers studied the recordings more closely, they noticed that not all clicks were just for finding food or navigating. There are sounds that are clearly used for social interaction. Patterns emerge when families gather together. There are sounds that are often heard when a newborn calf is present. And there are also vocalizations associated with group coordination before they perform deep dives. This is where an important idea starts to become clearer. Sperm whale communication is not just about location. It could also be a part of their social life. And if there's one thing that keeps coming up in decades of whale research, it's the importance of family in the lives of sperm whales. They don't live as solitary individuals. Most female sperm whales are part of stable family units that can stay together for many years. They take care of the young together, share responsibilities, and seem to help each other protect the young members of the group. In fact, there have been times when marine biologists observed a mother leaving to hunt in the deep parts of the sea, while other adult female whales temporarily watch over her calf at the surface. We have no way of knowing exactly what they're talking about, but the results of their coordination are clearly visible. There is cooperation, trust, and organized social behavior. For researchers, this is one of the reasons why studying their communication is so important. Because when we better understand how they interact with each other, we also better understand how their society works. There's another aspect of sperm whales that often surprises people. It's the power of their sounds. According to marine acoustic studies, sperm whales are among the loudest biological sound producers on the planet. Their echolocation clicks are much louder compared to most animals in the world. However, it's important to note that many details about its effects on humans are still being studied. There are online claims that it can supposedly destroy the human body from the inside instantly, but there is still no solid scientific evidence supporting such extreme claims. What is more certain is this: their acoustic system is very powerful. And this is also the same biological machinery they use to communicate with their fellow whales. In other words, the organ that helps them see using sound is also part of the system they use for communication. And as more data comes in, scientists are getting closer to answering a question that once seemed impossible. Are there fundamental messages that sperm whales use repeatedly? There are some codas that researchers have noticed appearing in different situations and among different whale families. Because of this, there are hypotheses that some patterns may serve as simple signals of presence or recognition. It's like saying, I'm here. But it's very important to emphasize that this has not yet been officially translated or confirmed as the exact meaning. It is still a scientific hypothesis that continues to be studied. However, even though we still don't know the true message, one thing is clear. For millions of years, sperm whales have developed a very sophisticated way of communicating with each other, while humans had no idea what was happening under the sea as empires rose and fell. As civilizations advanced, while wars and revolutions were happening on land, whales continued to communicate under the ocean, using a system that we have only barely glimpsed until now, and perhaps that is the most fascinating part of the whole story. Not because we've proven that we understand them, but because only now are we realizing how much we still don't know. With every new recording analyzed by AI, every new dive by researchers, and every new pattern that emerges from thousands of hours of audio, the possibility grows that there are forms of intelligence on our planet that have existed for a long time. But only now are we truly beginning to listen. The more years researchers spend observing sperm whales, the more an important truth emerges. Their communication is not just about sending information. It's also a part of their social life. In studies in Dominica and other parts of the world, marine biologists repeatedly observe that sperm whales have some of the strongest social bonds in the animal kingdom. There are families that stay together for many decades. There are young whales that grow up surrounded by their aunts, grandmothers, and other adult females in the group. And in many instances, there seems to be an organized cooperation in caring for and protecting the younger members of the family. Because of this, it's no surprise that communication is so important to them. Under the sea, especially in the deepest parts of the ocean, there is almost no light, no roads, no signs, and no visual landmarks to follow. Sound serves as the main way for the group to stay connected. When they dive together to hunt for squid and other prey, they need a way to maintain coordination. Science does not yet fully understand how they do this in every situation, but it's clear that their vocal communication plays an important role in it. And if there's one aspect of their lives that especially amazes scientists, it's the way they respond to the loss of a fellow group member. In different species of whales and dolphins, there have been many recorded instances of behaviors that researchers associate with mourning or grief-like behavior. One of the most well-known cases happened in 2018 when an orca known as Telequa, or J35, carried her dead newborn calf for several days in the Pacific Northwest. This incident was widely reported and closely monitored by marine researchers. Although we can't know exactly what a whale feels, many scientists say it's hard to ignore the behaviors that show a strong attachment to their family members. This didn't just happen once. In different parts of the world, there have been documented observations of cetaceans staying close to their dead offspring or group members. Sometimes they even carry them. Sometimes they circle around them, and often their vocalizations continue while these things are happening. We still don't know the meaning of those sounds. There is no technology yet that can translate every message they pass to each other. But one thing is clear: communication is happening, and that's among the most important moments in their lives. This is where the question about whale culture becomes even more important. When an old matriarch in a sperm whale family dies, it's not just an individual that's lost. It's also possible to lose a vast amount of knowledge accumulated over her entire life. She knows where the best hunting grounds are. She knows which routes are safer at different times of the year, and she knows the dangers her family has faced over many decades. In the human world, we pass on information through books, the internet, and schools. In the world of sperm whales, much of that knowledge is passed on through social interaction and communication within the family. This is why some scientists believe that we are not only studying biology here, it's possible that we are also studying a kind of culture. And while discussing the relationship between humans and sperm whales, it's inevitable to look back at one of the most famous encounters in the history of whaling. In November of 1820, the American whaling ship Essex was sailing in the Pacific Ocean at a time when the demand for whale oil was high. According to historical records, a massive sperm whale rammed the ship more than once. The damage was severe. In the end, the Essex sank. The surviving crew members were forced to travel for a very long time in small boats while battling hunger, thirst, and harsh conditions at sea. This tragedy became one of the most well-known events in maritime history and one of the inspirations for the novel Moby Dick. To this day, historians and marine experts still debate exactly why the attack happened. We have no way of knowing what motivated that whale, but the incident serves as a reminder of one thing. For many centuries, people saw whales simply as sources of oil, food, or industrial use. Now, as science advances, we are gradually discovering that their world may be more complicated than we have long believed. And perhaps the biggest change is not what we are learning about whales, but what we are learning about ourselves. Because as we better understand the extent of their intelligence, social bonds, and ability to share information, we begin to wonder how many forms of wisdom have long existed on Earth even before humans began to write their own history.